All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Energy for Sales channel. Tim Hooper and David Olyphant, your hosts, where we believe if we're not having fun in sales, we may be doing something wrong. So it's all about being human. And you just heard from Todd Bowman. If you didn't, check out the podcast just below this one, all about networking and doing it a little bit better, just leveling up the skill of networking. A lot of great concepts unpacked. But David, we have some questions from our gang that were sent in during the month. Asked
Yep.
about while we were in person coaching or dropped into the chat here today. So when we talked about upping our confidence with Todd, he had a lot of good nuggets. We really did unpack the question, what if I get nervous around a big crowd? So go over and check out the podcast for that one. But David, I wanted to dig into this one. Is there a game plan for work in the room? So I know you talked about showing up early. But are there some stations around the room? Do you mosey around the room a certain way? That question was asked. I wanted to ask you that.
Sure.
Dig into that a bit.
As a follow-up to Todd's conversation, I am still looking for the networking event that I can come as Tom Hanks as Castaway. I think that'd be fun. I might have to seek that one out. So strategies for working the room. Again, it should be a quality versus quantity game. So you should be looking for the quality. Always a firm believer, get there early. You get to see people that come in. Sometimes if you're one of the first people there, as others come in, they think it's your event. And so they come up to you. Though, as mentioned on the earlier conversation, what the professional sales students are taught at MTSU, meet someone new, hold a relevant conversation, earn a follow-up visit. Strategically, where do you want to stand? Again, somewhere between the front door. If it's an evening event and there's a bar or a water station, between the front door and that station. Sometimes between that and the restroom, you're going to see people come, but they normally have a pretty high sense of urgency in that spot. But don't get stuck in a corner. Don't get stuck, in the middle of the room because you're just kind of turning. It's like the hockey term of head on the swivel. Get to a place where there's some decent traffic, where you see people, especially as they enter the room. You can get that eye contact. I think you talked about that. It was brought up about smiling. That invites people in. So again, it's quality over quantity. So it's not about meeting everyone,
Right.
but being in a position that you're there early enough that the room isn't already packed and everyone's engaged. And like, how do I bust into that? Everybody's like already, the dodgeball teams have already been chosen. I can't, I'm the last person. So
okay, I guess we'll take that. I was that kid. Okay, now, here's a question, because we're going to drill down into, is there a game plan?
Did I answer that Did I answer that for you?
That was great. But I think in that question for game plan, I'm trying to think, as a sales professional networking in a room, why would you feel like you need a game plan? I think here's what happens a lot of times. We get sucked into the group or the conversation we don't want to be a part of. So we're standing there and we're seeing our prospects, they're headed towards the door. Or we came to meet that person, or we really want to meet that person. And we're like, oh, we're having this anxiety. So that's, I think, where the need or feel for this game plan comes from, is some of these anxious moments. So how do you excuse yourself out of a group that you don't really want to be a part of the conversation?
Interesting that you bring that up. First of all, there's a couple things that are taught to these students about your posture. Like if I'm having a one-on-one and I don't want to be interrupted, my legs are straight on to Tim's, like I am locked in. But if I open myself up, then I'm inviting myself, and that also helps a little bit more for an exit. Because if I'm locked into you and then I just run and jet, like you're wondering, what just happened? So how you stand, your posture as you start opening up. They went around the room and asked some of the business partners, like, how do you get out of those conversations? Some are very abrupt. I mean, Tom is like,
ID.
Very nice to meet you. There's someone over there I need to say hello to. So, introducing them to somebody else. Great conversation. I look forward to a follow-up. Let's follow up, or introducing them. It's hard at times to hit and run, but you have to be fluid enough to be able to follow your game plan, which is potentially meet some of the people. You might say, by chance, do you know Tim Hooper? Because I need to go say hello to him, and either bring them with you or just run. But
That's a good
I'm a
one.
little more polite than some. Others were just nice to meet you, have a great life, and they're
Right.
out.
Right.
That's kind of cold. But there were some business professionals but that's that's how, that's how they do it. It's interesting. We talked about business cards back in the day. That was that was a way that, somebody would, oh, you have a business card? No, I didn't bring any, or I only have one left and I'm looking to meet someone. And it kind of gives them a clue. But I think that your posture, if it's someone that you don't want to get into a really long depth conversation with, I wouldn't ask those long winded questions that need a long winded answer, because you're not freeing yourself up for an exit. So again, play a little chess instead of checkers, maybe even in the conversation. But um, pleasure meeting you. I'm only here for a short time. Let's follow up. There's one of my clients I really need to say hello to.
That's
That's
great. I love when you said, hey, by chance, do you know this person? It looks like they're about to leave and I need to meet them. Something like that, just because I always believe that the honest play is the best play.
yeah,
So it's like,
yeah.
here, I'm going over here, because the worst thing you would do, get over there and start talking to somebody and they're looking like, oh, they want to talk to them more than, like, I think we get in our own brains about this stuff more than actually in real life happens. But just the honest play is great. Do you know that person? I really need to meet them before they leave. And
Mhm.
even if it's a good conversation you're having with somebody and you needed to exit to make that introduction, either saying, can we pick this up here or later?
Mhm.
If they don't know that person, would be totally fine. Because then it gives you a great opportunity to reach back out and say, I'm so sorry I had to abruptly end our conversation to go meet so and so. But hey, successful in doing that. Would love to follow back up with you over lunch or breakfast in the next. So back to Todd's play in the next couple of
Yep.
weeks. So I think that, again, less is more for sure. The game plan of work in the room oftentimes comes down to when we get stuck or when those moments come that
Mhm.
feel awkward. So I love the body posture, the facing, the more open. Or when you see somebody coming up, one of your referral partners you want to invite into the
Yep.
conversation, to take a step to the left or right, like swing left or right, and extend your arm and like, hey, I really want you to meet this person. And sometimes too, if you're with a team, you can have a little bit of code built beforehand that if you're like reaching for somebody, it's like, I may need to get out of this conversation and I can pull
Yes.
David in to this
Yep.
conversation so I can excuse myself from the conversation. So just having, if you're going as a team, kind of, who do we need to meet? Here's the list. Let's make sure we meet all these people. You guys target these. If you find that person, maybe snag them, bring them over to me. I have somebody I want you to meet. Just being able to work the room together. But if you're solo, just honesty is the
Yep.
best strategy. Hey, I need to meet so and so. I love that, David. That was great.
Yeah,
You just
and
need
Todd
that. That's great.
Todd
I
did
love
bring up about, the philosophy of having a wingman. Um, don't just spend time together. Like the worst thing is for you to walk in a room and your entire sales team is talking to each other and they're not,
spend.
or they're
Yes.
sitting.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
but if you effectively have a game plan, for instance, like Tim, you and I in a sales environment would have that signal that, that little signal that knew either shut it down or let me interject. In a networking posture, maybe bring them in. Oh, Tim, come here. I want you to meet Sally. Pay attention so you can properly introduce Sally. She's with ABC company, blah, blah, blah. Why don't you two spend a minute together? I need to go say hello to someone across the room.
It's
Like,
good. Yeah.
instead of,
Yeah, it's good. There's just a couple of little
yeah.
strategies like that. And again, what we said earlier in the podcast with Todd is, if you can go with somebody who's already part of this group and they're like the mayor of that group, or they already know the room really well, getting with them ahead of time even and saying, who are
Mhm.
some of the most influential people
Yep.
I should meet, would be good. So that's part of the game plan, I think. David, let's dig in real quick, because the question came in, and this is a little bit of a controversial question, but we talked with Todd about refining our focus and really being intentional with where we spend our time and what networking events make the most sense for our business. And he gave us that litmus test of, can I bring the people in that group up into normal conversations of business often?
Mhm.
That kind of gives us the sense that we're hanging out with the right people and really going deeper with the right people. But we have this question all the time. I'm going to bring it up.
Is this the question?
This is the question. Um,
That's-
is BNI worth it? And so, David, I'm going to let you kind of have this one, because I want to
Okay.
have friends after this call. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Yeah.
I think we should unpack this. Just
I guess the question would be to BNI or to not BNI. That is the question.
to BNI
I
or not to BNI. Now, BNI, isn't that
Business
Nashville's
Network International,
abbreviation? Or is that BNA?
BNA,
Okay,
BNA,
BNA. That's right. I should
BNA.
know that.
So I have never been a fan of BNI. Anything that forces you to write 3 names on a card and 3 referral names on a card is just I just don't like it. You know, on the podcast we talked about what Todd created, what Todd and I were part of, which was really business advisors getting to know each other and understanding our business, which BNI does a little bit of that. I mean, you get to have your 10-minute, 15-minute, whatever. I as a sales leader, I always had salespeople going, "Hey, I want to go join this BNI group." It's like, why? Blah 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 blah. Why? I mean, because I don't think you have that depth. That's just now. It could be controversial. That is just that's just I've seen it over the decades. I've just have seen it, and if I've made people mad, I'm sorry. I'm always going to be
You're making
transparent.
people
I'm always
mad.
going to
It's
be polite.
the chat's blowing up. You're making people mad.
I never have been because I don't maybe I just don't get it. It might be something's wrong with me. So I'll take the hit. It seems forced. It doesn't seem natural. And maybe it takes a long period of time to really get to know your other business partners and understand. But I would rather go to Tim or refer Tim in a conversation. You need to go speak to Tim Hooper because I think he can help you versus Tim Hooper wrote your name down on a little piece of paper. And I don't know. I know it's controversial. I know
I
you want to
think
have.
I think it does. My wife reminds me often. She's brilliant. She has really good intuition and a lot of wisdom. Keeps me grounded for sure. But she reminds me often it doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be both. And so I think that BNI is, and I was kidding about the chat. Actually, I think you're making some fans, David, if you want to check it out. As I know, I probably just scared you with the but
I
you
ain't
don't really
scared.
care because you are who you are, and I love that. But it
Genuine,
doesn't have to
authentic.
be one or the other. It can be both. And I think that at some levels, when we're first starting out, the structure and the guidance and learning how to give referrals, I think BNI has a place. But I don't think BNI is our long-term solution. I believe that most of the people we work with, because they are building their own events or they're putting together something. I think it's what Todd said, move it into a posture of you're doing your event, you're building, you're the broker of the information. Because I think that's where you can really lean into some, trying new things and seeing how it works and, having some fun with it and getting outside of the work and, incorporating the food. And you talk about the food. I love that. Going to the price. I think there's some value to really considering maybe that BNI is for a time, for a season, and for a reason, and then to move past or graduate from. Because I think even like Toastmasters, back when I was first learning to speak, Toastmasters was great, but I want to go to Toastmasters today. But somebody came up to me in Orlando the other day after I spoke, and they were like, "Hey, I really want to speak. Like, I want to start." And I had to rewind my brain, David, a little bit and think, what would I give to my younger self? And I was like, "Hey, have you ever been to Toastmasters?" No, I haven't. I was like, I might start there. Look at a Rotary Club, getting invited to the chamber to speak. Like starting there is a great. So I had to kind of rewind. So I think BNI is probably good for a time, but I think we need to graduate from again, a pressured structure to more of a business consultative, organic growth, really good conversations. And also too, I think it depends on your industry because if you want to be around, say, real estate agent, or you're a real estate agent and you want to be around home buyers, or you're a loan officer and you want to be around real estate agents and home buyer, like figure out what puts you in the best spot to be around more of those, as opposed to a BNI scenario where there's only one of those and only ever going to be one of those, and it's just not as impactful.
And I think with
To your
anything,
bottom line.
it's the power of the group. Back in the day, they would allow you to come to one, maybe 2 events, 2 of their meetings to learn who else your brothers and sisters would be in
Yeah.
that. And the power was going to be in that. And maybe that's where it fell down for me, but it would be a question every time I hired a new salesperson that was working into a local market with a territory. You know, what about BNI? I would tell them go and check it out. And you know, if you want to invest in it, you know, would you split it? You know, you want to split it halfway, half out of your
Yeah.
pocket, half. You know, I never wanted to be an impediment. It just wasn't my cup of tea.
It's great. Two more questions I think we'll have time for, and then we'll wrap this up. So number
Cool.
one, you're in the room. This probably comes back to being more focused, but maybe a little bit more confidence here too, as we're talking about upping our confidence. What makes a good conversation? So how do you strike up a good conversation, David? Like I know Andrew dropped in the chat earlier. Hey, what do you do outside of work? You know, I think there's some questions that we could ask to really start a good, fruitful conversation. But what makes a good conversation at a networking event in your mind?
I think as far as to open, I always like to ask, you know, especially if it's a morning one, you know, how's the morning going so far? How long have you lived in Nashville or the Middle Tennessee area? I think that if you those are logical things you get to learn about people. Oh, so you grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Cool. So it gets you on the person, anything that's going to have you early on, just open conversations about them personally. Something about kind of the type of day they're having, where are you from? How long have you been
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Native of is a great, like native of Nashville.
Yes,
That's, you know, that I always like that question because again, the journey of where they live usually
right.
goes through the journey of where they've worked, which usually goes through the
Sure.
journey of who they've been married to or whatever the case may be. So you just kind of get to know a
Yeah.
whole gamut just by that question. That's a good one.
Yeah, and you know the thing about Nashville, like there's so few true Nashvillians that grew up here. Now I've been here 4 decades, um, but you know I'm not from here. I've seen it, but so you know, I think that's a great starting. What brought you here? Okay, what brought you? Not only, oh no, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Well, what
Yeah.
brought you here? Well, you know, I
Yeah.
came in to go work for HCA, Healthcare Corporation of America, or my wife, or a Toyota Corolla brought me here. I don't know.
Yeah, it's strong. I think what you the personal side. I like that you said like more personally get to know them. So, you know, when did you start? Like sometimes too, like if the name tag has the business or whatever, I'm Tim with, and you're David with you know, Change Healthcare. Okay. So how long have you been with Change Healthcare? You know, like that's you know, because sometimes the how long question I think is a great. Oh, I just
Yep.
started. I'm a weekend. They actually paid for me to come here. Okay, so what's it like? What are your goals out of this? So you can kind of unpack. Or I've been here a long time. I've been doing it. Kind of ties. I just think the questions that can really help you to get a feel for who they are. Definitely, I would not suggest starting with you know, business question like who makes a good referral for you. I think that just
Yeah.
comes across like you're trying too hard. You're really like
You're in sales mode already.
you
Now
don't
I
have yeah or
think of the questions that are going to connect you with the person on a
yeah
personal
boom
layer. You know, common line I'll use at especially the events out at MTSU in the morning. How's the morning treating you so far? Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, it's great. I don't know. I need to have a cup of coffee. Let me answer that later. So
now
you're
granted I don't I mean just here you and I can you know we banter back and forth like you're student facing at that point so you're facing like some students at the Jones College of Business so how's your morning going I mean students are showing up in
but I'll do this. I
the
do the
car
same
start
thing with the other
do
business
you
partners that are
really
there.
okay
Yeah.
okay okay all
Yeah.
right I might have to try that one I haven't tried the how's your morning going so far
How's the
usually
morning
it's
treat? How's the morning treating you so far?
how's the morning treating you gotcha okay you
Oh
know it was
man, my dog got me up at 2 o'clock. Oh, what kind of dog? See, now we're down the path.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, I could see that, David. I could see that. I don't know. I might have to try that one and let you know how it goes. How's the morning treating you so far? Oh, good. I just drug out of bed and got here or whatever. Or I just went on a 26-mile run and I'm like, bummer, man. I feel like I'm like the underachiever
wow,
here.
that's impressive. You know, but now you're on a path.
You are on a path for sure. How's the morning treating you? There you go, folks. Write it down. Heard it here first. Native of is great. Are you a native of? Where'd you come from? I haven't seen, I was in a networking event. You've been around for a long time. Hey, I haven't seen you here before. Like, who invited you? I love how did you get in the room? Like, I love feeling that
Mhm.
puzzle piece in. Who brought you? How did you get in the room? Kind of a feel. That might connect you or help connect the dots. So again, if it's something you're curious about, ask it, figure out a way to ask it. Um, just keep it personal on the personal side. The ending of the conversation, I feel, is like, so what are your goals with this event, like, or with this networking group? Is there anything I can help connect, or anybody I can help connect you to? Like, those are, I think, the ending question. Because if you go into the start of the question, they tell you, now it's like, okay, we're done. And I
Mhm.
know what you need professionally, but I have no clue who you are. So I really want to get to know who they are, why they're here. And now let's ask some of those more aesthetic questions of what
Yep.
makes a good referral partner. So good stuff. Last but not least, and if I could find it on here, David, I know Todd mentioned that, and again, guys, go back and listen to that podcast. It was fantastic. Literally, I was taking so many notes. Um, he mentioned back in person is the way to go because people are craving that human interaction. And I agree 100%. But I do think that the pandemic delivered to us more of a willingness for people to jump on Zoom quickly. So, would you say there are some networking opportunities out there on Zoom? Are there some virtual? Are networking events kind of going away from the whole virtual space? Should we be seeking out a mix of virtual and in person?
I think the mix is perfect. One of the events, I wanted it to be monthly. Um, MTSU decided to do it quarterly. Was they have a virtual networking event for business partners, for students, for alumni. Uh, jump on and get to know some folks, and then pushing people into some breakout rooms, like smaller groups, whether it's about a
Mm,
question or you guys get to know each other a little bit deeper. I'm going to take you for, and I'm going to move you here. So there are definite ways to network that way, and then after that, then go set a relevant conversation, one on one with the people that were in your group, because you don't have time, in 10 minutes with four others in the room really to get deep. Uh, though, so there are ways to do that, especially, you know, especially if you have a solution or, are not working in a local geography. I mean, how are you going to meet people across the state, or how are you going to meet people across the country? But being that, again, like Todd had mentioned, you own that event. So, go and create that event, invite some folks, make it that way. But yeah, one-on-one, I mean, you really can't beat. Um, but virtual needs to grow. It grew and it shrunk, it compressed a
yeah,
bit. And now, I
yeah.
mean, a 30-minute conversation without having to jump into a car and go pay for parking.
Strong,
So
strong. Um, okay. All right. I love that. So a good mix, virtual and in person. Um, Last but not least, if you're sponsoring an event, your company, Todd mentioned his company sponsors several networking events. If you're sponsoring, I think one of the best game plans, one of the best ways to put your best foot forward is leading up to an event. Get with the event coordinator, whoever's putting on this networking event, and shoot a little video. Just be like, hey, we're one of the sponsors for this event. Just want to remind everybody, we have this great speaker coming out. We're going to hear from this person. So-and-so is going to break down the new rules here. And I would love to meet you when you're there. If I can help you with anything, reach out, but hope to see you at this event. It's going to be great. A little under a minute, little promo to put, and somebody on your team can do this. Somebody can put, whoever's the kind of the spokesperson, do that, because I feel like, and if you're going as a team, they could just say, hey, one of our team wants to meet you here, blah, blah, blah. I think that kind of breaks the ice for you. Get your face out. I've
mhm.
done that
Yep.
several times. The video was used. I sent it to the event planner. They forwarded it out. And when I got to the event, people thought, oh, you're the guy from the video. Yep, that's me. I'm just trying to add value by pulling people into the event. So that's another way to put your best foot forward. As we end today, we're right up here at 3 o'clock. Just David, I want to thank you, man, for being in my life. Thanks for being my coach. The other thing is I'm going to drop in the chat here to everybody, and I'll send this out via email as well. But our friend Chelsea Pites from Energize, she is doing a demystifying social media, a whole breakdown on how to be authentically you on social media. Jump on that. That's this Wednesday at, I believe it's 9 Pacific time, I believe. So I think that would be noon Eastern. But that link is in the chat. Get registered. You guys love Chelsea. I told her we would push this out to our network. Again, just trying to network with her. She's awesome, valuable resource to us, and we love her. So get registered for her event this Wednesday. And again, I'll push that link out via email to all of you. But we want to say thank you for being on today. Keep those questions coming throughout the month, and we'll see you next month as we unpack a whole new series with you. So stay tuned for what that's going to be. David, take care, brother.
You as well. Bye all.